It's Kirby time, everyone! Hello, everyone, and welcome to Let's Play Kirby's Dream Land 2. It's been, what, 3 almost years since I touched the first game? And we're just gonna get right on into it. This game actually doesn't have much of a story. Apparently, DDD's been causing some stuff again, and we need to stop it, or something like that. And oh my god, giant hamster! That's this game's gimmick, but we'll get into that when we first see it. Now, to explain my own little experience with this game, I'll be honest, this was a Kirby game I have not played much of. I first played this maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And honestly, I still kind of like the first one more, but I'll get more into that in the final part, because there's more than one part of this one, that's for certain. Unlike Kirby's Dream Land 2, which was about, what would you say, 2 parts I think it was? Barely? This is 5, so we have a bit ahead of us this time around. But unlike Kirby's Dream Land 1, there is a couple new things. First off, there's those stars that we collected. Not collected. If you collect up to 7 of those, you will get an extra life. So, ways to get extra lives, and oh my god, it's a parasol. And if you swallow it, we have copy abilities now. You know, the thing Kirby's known for? That wasn't in his first game, oddly enough. That was introduced either, I want to say it was actually in the NES game, Kirby's Adventure, but it may have been this. But there's not too many abilities in this game. There's only about 6, as opposed to the usual Kirby games, like 12 plus. And we'll be seeing them all as we go through. Parasol here is pretty simple. If you press the B button, you attack forward, or you have a small thrust forward that I think actually can do up to 2 hits to the little 2 parts of its animation. And it also has the added effect of slowing down your descent from falling. And here's the exit, which has a bit of an exit game to it. If you press A at the proper timing, you'll be launched up through the clouds, killing 3 enemies, collecting a soda, which is a health recovery, getting a star, then a maximum tomato, which is a full life recovery, and then a 1-up. And that right there is our next new ability. I think it's just called Fire in this game, but I think it's like Meteor or Fireball, one of the later ones. This charges you forward as a meteor, and it's very spammable. And in fact, I think it's actually the fastest way you can travel in the game, at least at this point. So if you're doing a speed run, I guess use that a lot. And I should mention, I am going for 100% in this game. Kind of. I show you everything you need to do to get 100%. I don't get it exactly. I only end up with like 96. Now, hey, mini-boss. Mini-bosses are all based around these 6 abilities in the game. Like, this is the Fireball one. However, the main way to damage them isn't with abilities. It's with stars, though. If you press the select button, you can eject your ability, which you're going to need to do later on if you don't want to, take damage. But you can actually suck up that star and shoot it out at people. And doing so does like 4 units of damage on mini-bosses, and you can suck up 2 at a time to do extra damage. And either way, this is Rick the Hamster. Kirby's Dream Land 2, there we go. Big gimmick is that it has 3 animal buddies. This is Rick the Hamster. And whenever you're on an animal buddy and you have a special ability, the effect changes. Like in this case, Parasol, just Rick puts us on an umbrella and spins us around. They each have their own gimmick, sort of, each of the animal buddies, but Rick is pretty basic. He can't fly like Kirby can, because you can still fly infinitely in this game, by the way. But he does have, I think, a faster walking speed, and a lot of his abilities are just much better in terms of range. Plus, he's just adorable, which, that's always a plus. Mind you, Kirby's an overall adorable series. And that's the end of that level. But fun fact, actually, this wasn't originally going to be the series I was going to return to. It was originally going to be Pokemon. Then I realized I just didn't want to do that, because I wanted to do some shorter games for the first time in a while. Well, I say that, but I just finished the Mega Man World Series. But you know what I mean. Like, I don't want to tackle one long game again for a bit. I want to do some shorter games. Now, you're going to notice there's a lot of enemies in this game that don't really have any element to them at all. That's because they don't. Only one type of any enemy gives you their ability. Like, you can only get the fire ability from that little rotating guy who I forget the name of. You can only ever get the parasol ability from the umbrella enemies and such. Later Kirby games would have multiple types of enemies that could give you one ability, which I like, but it makes this game kind of bland at the same time, because there's just a lot of these normal enemies that don't give you anything. Like in later games, that one we just saw fall down on the left there, the one that looks kind of like Santa Claus, even though I think it's like a Poppy Bro, I think it's his name. In later games, he would give you a bomb ability, and oh, hey, that's a thing. Huh, wonder what that is. We'll worry about that in a moment. But you're going to want to get Parasol, then head right back into that room, because now we can get that thing. Because each power can destroy a special kind of block. And you'll need to memorize those in order to get these. This is a rainbow drop. There is one in each world. This is the one for World 1. I forget, I missed the name of the world earlier, so that's the one for this world. You see, the locations we're on are they actually have a name. We're not in Dreamland, technically. We're on the Rainbow Islands, and those rainbow drops made the rainbow bridges. And the rainbow drops have been stolen by the main villain, so we need to defeat them and get them. And it actually does affect something. If you get all 7 rainbow drops, you do actually get a changed ending. We'll see that when it becomes more prevalent, though. You're gonna notice I actually really suck at this version of that victory game. That victory game is brought back in more or less every other Kirby game. But I suck at it in this one. And it's time for the first world boss, Whispy Woods, as usual. Big strategy for him? Just shoot stuff at him. Honestly, Parasol is probably the worst ability you can have for this fight. I actually recommend Fire if you have it, especially as Rick. But the main thing you want to do is also just suck up his apples and blow him back at him. He is a very easy boss, as usual, considering he's usually the first boss in any given Kirby game. He shouldn't give you much trouble at all, really. I love that victory theme, by the way. And that's the end of World 1! Mostly. While we do have access to the next world now, Kirby's Dream Land 2 has a thing where if you go back to a world after beating its boss, you can enter the stage again and get a bonus round. But not against the boss. What the boss does is actually has some variation of what to do with the stars. Like this time around, he'll just shoot out various stars of timings and altitudes. And if you want to get 100%, you need to perfect these. I don't always perfect them because some of them are actually really hard. But if you want to go for a true 100%, you need to collect every star in these games without missing them. It's not on the first try, mind you, because I think you can backtrack to them after some amount of time, but you really want to do this. Plus, it's a good way to get extra lives. This is why I don't get exactly 100% because I'm not good at a lot of these, so I don't get perfect on a lot of them. However, the Whispy Woods one, as you're seeing, is pathetically easy, so there's no chance of you really losing. Unless you don't try, but then again, can you really lose if you don't try? Or play the game at all, really? And for getting an extra life, you also beat the game. No. For beating the minigame perfectly, you also get another extra life, so you can get up to like 3 or 4 lives in some of them. Either way, it's time for World 2, the Green World. Big Forest. And you can see right there we actually have the introduction of a new animal buddy. We'll see him in a bit, though. This is where the game really starts, because the first world is more or less just tutorial. Also, you want to press select so you can leave Rick behind. Yeah, if you actually, you can leave your animal buddies at any time without dying. And that's just by pressing select. Because, actually, that's the thing I forgot to mention. The animal buddies are separate health bars. When you get on an animal buddy, their health bar is the one that's down there now. So, the more you know. But you can leave them or the powers just by pressing the select button. Though you will always drop the power before leaving the buddy, because that's, you know, decent design idea. And we'll never see that enemy again. Or at least that specific one. And you'll always know when you're about to... Ow. Hate those enemies. You'll always know when you're about to find an animal buddy when you see one of those little... what's it called? Bags. Either way, next animal buddy is Coo the Owl. And he allows you to fly infinitely even better, because not only is he faster, but you just don't have to tap the button as much. And he is probably my favorite animal buddy, because first off, free range of movement at any point in time is always good. And secondly, his abilities are usually really good. Like his Parasol ability, as you can see here, allows you to spin in a tornado function. In fact, this would later go to the tornado ability. Or maybe it already did. I forget if this came out before Kirby's Adventure on the NES. So, Coo is probably the one you're going to want to have around the most when you're not going for rainbow drops. Now, if you're actually playing along yourself, you might notice that you're looking at a different colored screen. That's because I'm actually playing this on the Super Game Boy mode. Why? Yeah, we already saw 5 games in a row of black and white not too long ago, so let's get some color in there. Because this game actually was one of those games that was kind of made specifically for the Super Game Boy, like it had extra colors and everything. I specifically remember there was even an exclusive border if you plugged this into the Super Game Boy. So yeah. But yeah, as I was saying earlier from my personal experience, with Kirby, I was a bit of an odd case. I played the first one first, because my brother had it for his Game Boy. But After that, I went right to, I want to say Nightmare in Dreamland, the remake of Kirby's Adventure. Either way, next ability is the Needles ability, as you can see here. When you're Kirby, usually, he just spikes out all around him. But when you're Ku, you just really spike out below him. It's useful, I suppose. And by the way, these spiky enemies, you can't actually kill them. They were in the first game, if I recall. They are known as Gordies. They are the invincible thing you can never really do anything with. They're just there for obstacles more often than not. Anyway, I want to re-enter here because now that we have needles, we can head down here and enter this door for this world's rainbow drop. You can destroy those blocks with needles and grab the second one. A lot of the rainbow drops are actually really easy to find as long as you keep an explorative mind out. So you really shouldn't have much trouble getting main 100%. Normally, there is 1% that almost always evades people because of how cryptic it is. And we'll get that in like part 4 or something, I forget when. But the thing is with Kirby, as you'll notice, that a lot of the stage design is very familiar, considering this was a series made for beginner gamers, mostly. You're going to notice that a lot of the stages are either very samey or very simple in concept and gimmick. So I might run out of things to talk about at times, so I apologize ahead of that before time. I apologize for that ahead of time. Oh, Parasol mini-boss. This guy is pretty easy. He generally just either throws his sandal, which is the thing you want to suck up and shoot at him if you're Kirby alone or if you just want to do extra damage. And then he'll do the attack we're actually using, more or less. Not very hard, but as I said before, I recommend if you're facing a mini-boss and you don't need a power for anything coming up, you should just suck up the abilities and shoot him back after these guys because you can do 4 units of damage per shot. Up to 8 if you get 2 stars in your mouth, as I mentioned before, because it does stack like that in this game. I don't think you can ever have 3 things in your mouth, though, so, well, there. And that is a blob. The blob only shows up when a bag would contain an animal buddy you already have. In that case, that bag would have contained Ku. And you might not think there is, but there's actually 2 versions of them. The boy one, which is actually Gooey, I think is his name. And he just gives you a light, some health back. But there is a rare chance, I want to say it's like less than 10%, of there being a female one known as Blob, I think was her name. And she is a very, I'll get more into this later on as well, but she is an elusive thing, because first off, she gives you an extra life, and finding her is needed for 100%. In fact, she's often that last percent people miss. We'll see that eventually, though. And that's the last level of World 2. That's one thing I can really say about Kirby, is that since it's, you know, a series for beginners mostly, the difficulty curve is very smooth. It starts off very easy, it ends off not too bad, but still it's harder. And boss of this world is 2 hedgehogs I forget the name of. I'm actually gonna get that up. Either way, main strategy with this is that they'll go through random doors, very much like Lolo and Lala from Kirby's Dream Land 1. This boss shouldn't give you much trouble. If you want to use just Kirby alone or suck abilities at him, I want to say you either inhale the small hedgehogs. Yeah, actually, no, you wouldn't inhale the small hedgehogs because you can't absorb the cannonballs. Not a very hard boss at all, really. Mind you, it's like the second boss. And really, there's no real excuse to lose to this guy, especially if you have Parasol, because Parasol Ku is really good, because he can actually attack in 2 layers in this fight. And that's the end of World 2. Let's see, that thing's name was Nuruff and Nelly. Nuruff is the big one, Nellies are the small ones. Porcupines, not hedgehogs. My bad. And there's World 3, but yet again, let's go get that little bonus game out of the way. I'm actually not sure if these bonus minigames are random in terms of their star placement. I wouldn't be surprised if they were, but if they aren't, well, that means you can easily memorize them. This one's a bit more tricky because the Nellies are constantly coming at you, but as long as you're Parasol Ku, you should have no real trouble. Because the thing is, these platforms, they look solid, but, well, they are technically. But these are the kind of platforms, we saw them earlier again because I went through them before, that you can drop down through as long as you hold down. And that's the end of World 2. But with that, I'm going to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in Part 2, we'll be heading into World 3. See you guys then!